I've always said, like, I feel like such a rebel at the core, which is funny to a lot of people who know me, because, like, I love knowing what the rules are, and most of my job is paperwork, and I really love futzing with margins and fonts, and, like, I'm very structured, and I'm very type A, but I feel like such a rebel at heart because I'm less interested in getting things done the most seamless way as possible, and I'm more interested in causing a ruckus. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to play into ideas about how I can be taken seriously, because I believe so firmly that how I am the way I am deserves to be taken seriously as is.
People are fascinating, especially up close. More especially when you get them talking about the things that they love. This is From the Hip, conversations in the service of passion, purpose, and play. I'm Adrianne Gunn. You ready to play? Today on From the Hip, I'm hanging out with stage manager and fellow techie Amanda Kishlock. We get to talking about how radical an act it is to be exactly who you are. Are we go yet?
Are we go yet? We are very go yet.
We're very go
We
yet.
are very go yet.
The other day, I was part of it was a beautifully, wonderfully, weirdly stressful situation that shouldn't have been stressful.
Sounds right.
But these two people, so I love to get in rapport with people quickly.
Yeah.
These two people came in super anxious, and I forgot to say, don't get in rapport with that part. But so they were super anxious.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So we're having a meeting trying to facilitate their needs, and my job is supposed to, like, keep people calm.
Uh-huh.
And that is fine. So they come in super hot, and I find that the entire conversation was us agreeing with each other fervently. Like, have you ever had that happen?
Like, you are so right because I am also so right, and we are so right together and everything.
Everybody's using like slightly different words
Uh-huh.
for the same thing about, yeah. Well, and so that meeting took forever because I knew we were agreeing. And
Yeah.
at some point, but sadly hours later, I think I declared after I said something and then the other person took like 3 times as long to say the thing I had just said, but in a disagreeing tonality. And I'm like, okay, good, so we've agreed then. We're doing the thing we both just said.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But that was weird fun of tech world where I think people walk in assuming they don't know.
Or they're assuming they do know and they really don't. Like, I find very little, like, there is totally middle ground, but that's, like, way less fun to talk about. And, like, we all remember the hyperbole way more of, like, either, like, I really don't know what's going on, please help me, and I'm confused and I'm anxious, or, like, I totally know what's going on and I'm getting really mad at you because you don't want me to do the thing that breaks fire code?
Yeah.
Fire code? Who's she?
Yeah. Fire code's an ass.
Yeah, I'm calling Fire Code's manager.
So I'm fun. Am I fun? I don't know why that was the word. I am mostly nearly awake. Are you awake?
I definitely drank very much coffee today.
Nice. I could probably recaffeinate. That's the rest of that word. Recaffeinate. But I am Adrianne Gunn. And I'm hanging out today with my friend, and you get to say your name.
Oh, I get to say it. Amanda Kishlock. Like a fish lock, but a Kishlock.
That's Kish.
Yeah.
Not like kitsch or
I've
kissing.
just never, ever, ever met anyone who has heard someone else with that last name unless they're related to me. Mm-hmm. So I just assume, like, if you're a Kishlock out in the world, we're probably related. And
Hi.
Family, hi. If you are a Kishlock and you are not related to me, call me. Because that's neat.
What will you feed them?
I mean,
Yeah.
I have a tendency to feed everyone, everything, all the time. I got really anxious recently because my husband was like, I'll just invite some random people over because you don't work tonight, I don't work tonight. I'll just do it. We'll hang out. We'll play, like, video games or something. And I thought, like, I don't have anything to make, like, 4 people, like, something fun and interesting. And I haven't thought about that, and I don't have time to go to the grocery store. What are you talking about? We're going to invite people over and not feed them. Like, how dare you? And he was like, it's fine. It's fine. No one will care.
Was it after eating time?
I mean, yeah.
That's
But still, like, it's
beverages,
like,
then?
it's like I don't know, it's a family thing. Like, both of my parents are, like, comically generous, like, in, like, the most, like, wholesome, wonderful way. And, like, growing up, that was very much the thing of, like, oh, your friends are coming over? Well, here's something. Do they need to eat? Here, let me feed you.
I don't have this now. I used to have a drawer in my kitchen that was the Chewy drawer, because I always had Chewy granola bars and snacks in that drawer for people who came over, because I frequently eat things that other people don't eat, or I don't have things that people do eat. And now it's just the decaffeinated tea drawer instead of the Chewy drawer. But that was my default for, like, I can offer you water because I have water, and I have these granola bars, but I don't have those now. What do I have? I have meat sticks, and those are for me.
See, I do, like, the opposite usually, in terms of, like, I frequently eat things that other people don't eat, or, like, can't eat things other people eat. So I'm like, oh, it's cool. I brought my own snacks. I know we are at a restaurant, but I brought my own snacks.
Yeah.
Because ain't nobody want to, like, ask the waitstaff about details about the food. I'm not that person. I just, like, don't like to do that.
I'm so that person.
I'm like, because frankly, if I'm going out to eat, like, I'm already committing to, like, I don't want to have to deal with, like, thinking about, like, you know, really thinking about, like, what I'm doing or eating and, like, cleaning up. Like, that's the thing about going out to eat, of, like, you are paying someone for the gift and the luxury of, like, all the things you no longer have to worry about, and you just get to enjoy food and company often. So when they're like, oh, we'll go to this place, I'm like, but then I have to ask, like, does this have dairy in it? Does this, like, come with this side? Can I do it like that? Like, that's nullifying the lack of, like, anxiety and, like, thinking that I'm usually looking for. Because I'm like, I'd rather just make food, because I'm a good cook.
I'm frequently having to scan for hidden onions, which are in pretty much everything, so I have to assume there's some amount of onions and stuff, and it's not the most deadly of my challenges of food, but it's the least fun, because I don't like the taste. And then leave my breath smelling terrible, and also I end up hurting, like, the next day, or maybe getting sores in my mouth. But, like, hidden onions, I have to ask about it.
Yeah.
Because things that don't have the other things that I can obviously, okay, wheat, dairy, those things are in things, generally. But the hidden onions are a problem.
Hidden onions.
I don't know. I love this idea of you getting to go places where you don't have to worry about any of what is produced there.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you don't know this yet, but Amanda and I know each other from tech world.
Yes.
Like, you and I freelance sometimes. When I talk to people, I'm like, I have about 8 careers. And one of the ones I used to pursue more is backstage tech world stuff. Now I just I do that for friends, or you sometimes have to ask permission before you can refer me to somebody to do that kind of stuff. So
I know that feel.
we know each other from a place where I occasionally work, but I don't go out of my way to, like, pursue gigs there. But you're frequently stage managing there. What do you describe yourself when you're in the world?
I was, like, thinking about that this morning, because I was thinking about this and, like, coming by, like, your show, and I felt like the question, like, what do you, like, who are you? What do you do? That's probably gonna come up. Right. And I thought, like, that's almost a stressful question, because it's, like, the first thing that you say, like, you're kind of defining yourself by that parameter first.
Right.
And that's, like, I don't know, I like to cook. Like, and that's the other interesting thing, I think, when people talk about, like, oh, like, I say, like, oh, and then my husband Trevor, and they're like, oh, what does he do? I'm like, there are 800 other things about him that you could ask, but everyone asks, like, what do you do?
I know.
That's not super related, but also tangentially related to, I stage manage, and I also do other stuff too. I like to say, like, I don't know, pay me money and I'll probably do it, which would maybe get me in trouble in certain circles. Or maybe not, maybe good things. But no, I stage manage. That's how, like, that's one of the things I often do with you. And it's one of my favorite things to do, so I do tend to lead with, like, when people ask, like, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I'm a stage manager, or I'm a theatrical electrician, because that sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Especially when, like, because I'll, like, dress a certain way. I like fashion, and I like heels, and, like, fun things like that. And then I get to say, like, people say, oh, hi, sweetheart, like, how are you doing today? Or, like, they'll strike conversations, and I'm like, okay, yeah, They're like, what do you do for a living? It's like, well, I'm a theatrical electrician. I carry heavy things, and I put them up high, and I make them turn on. And then lots of current, and lots of me burning my fingers on stuff, and having weird, suspicious scratches on my arms.
Oh, I love the random bruises. I have fewer of those these days because I generally get to supervise in those situations, and other people are getting the weird bruises. But when I was like 19, faking 23 in Vegas, and I would be up hanging all different directions in lighting truss, and I would end up with weird butterfly-shaped bruises in different places of my hips and whatever.
Yep.
And it'd be like 4 a.m. I got home. I was like, wait, where did that one come from?
Right? Who did that? That looks like it must have hurt. Why don't I remember that?
It's sort of like have a vague sense memory of like, oh yeah, I was dangling and then pushing a.
Yelling. I like habitually have, and I call it like, classic like electrician bruises is like on my shins, because I'm standing up on like the highest rung of a ladder that you safely can. Don't stand on the top rung. That you're not supposed to do that, unless it says you can. Listen to your ladders. But I always have bruises like right on my shin, like hard like lines across both of my shins, because I'm like standing, and I have to stand up on my toes on ladders a lot because I'm short.
Yeah.
And so I work with colleagues who have like, I have a buddy, Kevin, who has like, he's really tall, he's got really long arms. I'm like, of course Kevin can do it. Kevin can reach that.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
If we had 6 more inches on that ladder, I could. But
Definitely.
No, not for me.
They don't always frequently stock things for people that are shorter, say.
That's
in tech world.
Yeah, that's the same thing of like when I had to get like gloves for lighting purposes, and I could have gone, people are like, oh, you could have gone to just like Home Depot, got like, some good old gloves. I'm like, well, those don't really come in an extra small, because I have teeny child hands.
Yeah, fortunately, Lowe's seems to be sometimes, I want to say female friendly, and it would have been appropriate to say that 15 years ago when I started buying gloves that they weren't specifically pink and called women's gloves, but they were like women's sizes of gloves.
Yeah.
That were the same as the other gloves, but just smaller and different proportions and such. And I remember getting great gloves there, because I guess Lowe's, actually, of Lowe's and Home Depot, Lowe's is a bit more like made for different sensibilities, I suppose, based on potentially research.
Potentially.
Well, a lot of companies do crazy amounts of research to find out what people respond better to. So even forever ago when I worked at Best Buy, they actually did profiling of their main customers and then designed specific stores for them. It was kind of a cool time to be there, because like very rarely do corporate decisions from marketing research make it down to the sales floor. They should. Those decisions should make it to the sales floor, but they were really transparent about the fact. And then teaching us which customers had certain characteristics and how we could recognize and better like meet their needs in a way. It was kind of cool to use sociology and psychology to help people find stuff they needed. But they had Jill stores, they had like Buzz, I think, like the person who loves the gadgets, and they would just like change their merchandising to make things more accessible or more intriguing to some people. So like the lighting scheme of Lowe's is very different from Home Depot, and they're very sensibly like organized in different ways. And so I forever ago got gloves, and I could find gloves, but then for a hot minute people started going away from doing that kind of thing. I suppose we're in this sort of space where maybe gender's not a thing, men and women are different but they're not different, or everybody's different but they're not different. So it's kind of funny, I wanted to talk to you about the fact that like we're both in a kind of tech world, and when I was like attempting to pursue seriously this part of the career, I was just surrounded by a bunch of dudes, grumpier.
Yeah.
I did stagehand stuff and sound engineering stuff. I started in like 97, and I was pursuing it till about 05, and then it wasn't like that big a deal for me.
Yeah.
But like the change in culture when I started working backstage at PCC in a place where I don't want to say I don't care, but it's not like oh, I have to do everything right.
And it's not like there are several companies that come through that I like personally feel a degree of like investment in because I really believe in like what they're doing, or I think it's just quality work because I love just putting on quality work. That's one of my favorite things. My other favorite thing is getting paid too much money for it. That's my other favorite thing. So
Fair.
if you can meet one of those needs, like we're probably pretty golden. And if you meet both, we're best friends.
Yeah.
But even like, and that's one of the things I do enjoy about the work. And not everybody I meet who does the same kind of work I do has the same like feeling about it. And I feel like that's just par for the course. People are different. Mm-hmm. But I don't feel an overwhelming degree of attachment or investment or ownership of the end quality of the work in a way. Mm-hmm. Like, say as a stage manager, my job is to make sure things happen effectively, safely, on time, and to the best degree I know how. I'm just putting pieces together.
Right.
But those pieces could be a terrible show in my opinion. But it's still my job to put them together every night in a way that again is cohesive and safe and fun for everybody involved, hopefully. Yeah. But if the pieces aren't great, like that's not my job.
Yeah, well, and
that's kind of liberating and something I enjoy.
That's kind of the easy stuff.
Yeah.
But then you like put that on top of like, so back, I don't know, 20 years ago when I was doing a job, there's like, okay, you gotta move the boxes to here, you gotta set the mics up here and that sort of thing. And that's part of the gig.
Yeah.
The other part of the gig for me was navigating, which I do so much less of now. I don't know if culture has shifted or I've just shifted and I don't care, but I used to have to show up and like shoulder up in a particular way. Because I did a lot of my early work in, I don't know if Vegas is different, but a lot of these like old Roadhouse stuff where like people, I loved the guys that would just be like, they wouldn't see each other, like, oh, I haven't seen you in 6 years since Rush, blah, blah, blah. And it was always Rush, some sort of Rush tour.
I think you told me this story, like kind of anecdote before.
Like really crispy older dudes who have a lot of stories. Some frightening, some most are a little bit illegal, or on the edge of appropriate, but
on the edge of appropriate.
Like, oh my God, I wouldn't say it. And so some of my first moments in the show, it's about how to like have the posture and then name
Connor
drop.
says you're a badass.
Connor, who?
Connor Michelotti.
Connor
He's in Russia.
Hey, Connor.
Sup, Rush? Oh, we're live streaming. Cool. I'm glad we got that to work. I showed up here early and there was like a fun, like, are we live streaming? Are we not? Like, do we know?
Yeah.
We'll do it. It's fun. We'll do it live.
Let's be badasses.
Let's be badasses.
Well, and that's sort of my point. So I would walk into large stages where they're just a bunch of dudes of different ages.
Yeah.
And the assumption was that I walked in and I wouldn't know how to lift things, move things, do my job. So there was this like early moments of sort of almost all of the moments of proving myself. And I guess I'd already been a female athlete, a collegiate athlete, so I'd already sort of had to do the posturing of like, I'm supposed to be here, Title IX. We get money too. We're smaller.
Funding.
And, frankly, technically, since puberty, all of you have more speed for less effort than I do, and I'm still grumpy about that, but like, girl, we can do it too, women thing.
Yeah.
So I would spend the first hour or so of every fucking gig, no matter how long I'd been at the job. But then you have the negotiating that a bunch of people were super grumpy. It was sort of the default.
Yeah.
Everyone was an asshole. And that's how the job went.
That's when I was saying, like, I was going to channel my inner, like, Kirk on that gig I came in super early in the morning when I had left a strike, like, late the night before, and I had, like, 4 hours of sleep.
Just to be clear, Kirk is a fictitious
person
that no one knows.
Not a real person.
Inner Kirk is
your inner Kirk.
It's a metaphor.
For that union grump.
It's a union, it's an archetype, say, of a person who may or may not be amazing, and also from Jersey, and been around a while.
And that's why we have to channel our inner Kirk sometimes.
Our inner Kirk.
There's a lot of respectability about the Kirk in us all.
The grumpy Yoda of the tech industry, just an archetype of a version of awesomeness. So you were telling me that you were trying to...
I was going to channel my inner Kirk because I had gotten like 4 hours of sleep, and that's not normally like when I'm walking into a venue to do an event, like I have my own I've always joked that like I think technical work is a lot like acting in that you are putting on personas and airs depending, and that's just life. But I think it's particularly like a nice example or metaphor like in the industry because it's really readily available because you are working with performers and they are being something that is themselves and also not. And I feel the same way about like if I'm a stage managing a show, like I need to bring in certain airs of like confidence and I need to be relaxed and I need to have, I used to think I need to have all the answers, and then I learned that that's not the case. You just have to have really good questions.
That's fair.
And enough of the answers, or know who has the answers.
That is fair. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this because you and I have had conversations, and that's not fair to you. Like we've already had conversations. And you're like, what are you going to catch us up on? About how we've been allowed to approach things differently. And I think it sounds like you maybe came into tech world, or maybe coming through theater world where I came from like rock and roll concert stages, which there are tons of women working on rock and roll concert stages, a lot of lighting. A lot of women that I got to see 20 years ago were more on the touring production side of the management and dealing with the artist than they were on stage getting, bruises with the rest of us. And yet there were women doing that. And so in theater world, when I came to do like theater, they had way more time to accomplish everything.
They take so long to do stuff.
And
it takes so long.
And there was, but also people were sort of expected to be nice, and it was very strange. I went from sort of Vegas grumpy. And Vegas is a lot of things. Vegas is actually quite friendly, and it's a different ship. But there were a lot of people that I worked with that are very, very grumpy, and it's kind of scary. And that was what you were expecting. And then I went into theater world, specifically theater world that is also connected to education, and then everybody's supposed to be nice to everybody and communicate fluffily. And you didn't need to like walk in all hot and proving yourself. It was very interesting. And so we've talked about what it means to like have what confidence looks like and that sort of thing. And then you've had different approaches than I have.
Yeah, and this is like, honestly, I think about it a lot, and I meditate a lot, and and it's something I end up like, because a lot of the times I'll like meditate and I'll think on things that are like frustrating or difficult or like gnawing on me and try and like let go of them or like see the good thing or any which way. But like some of the conversations we have, like I get like I really chew on them for a while because I think we do come from like these really like we were just talking about like some people are saying the same things but they think they're disagreeing, like but it's the same thing. They're just coming from different like perspectives, and then it usually takes another person coming in and being like, oh cool, so we agree.
Right. Well, and these are conversations about whether you need to be a certain kind of aggressive, or match and model a kind of masculinity that's presumed to be the way to get things done, and you've pushed back on that.
I bristle at things like that, and I think a lot of that, like, a lot of like gendery things I tend to like bristle at, and I'm very antagonistic towards, because I know, and when I watched your show with Zed, I remember like you talking about you both getting different versions of the, what are you? Like, what are you? You don't fit what I expect or understand. And I like was watching, I'm like folding my laundry and I go, me. Me.
Yay.
Because
technical issue.
Uh-oh.
Which one?
Adrianne's mic is dead.
Adrianne's mic is dead. Abort. Abort. Okay, does that mean
I have to talk to your breasts.
Okay. Hello.
Okay.
Just
for a second.
Here, we'll do story time with Amanda for a minute, and we'll talk about it. Unless we're not streaming anymore.
We're still streaming.
Oh, we're still streaming. Okay, then we'll do story time with Amanda.
Okay.
Because this is what I was leading into anyway. Because
on?
when I was a kid, I
just don't have
felt a lot of like anxiety and antagonism towards gender and being feminine and female. Because I have two older brothers, and I got a lot of like, oh, you're a girl, you should act a certain way, or oh, what a pretty girl. And I never liked that. And I really hated pink when I was a kid.
Sorry.
I hated Disney movies, Mickey Mouse. Like, my parents will tell the story of me going to Disneyland for the first time, and my grandparents lived nearby, where Disneyland is.
Let's go. And
I thought we were driving down to California to see my grandparents, and they're like, guess what, kids? We're at Disneyland. And it's funny because I have two older brothers. He's 11 years older than me, and the other one is 2 years older than me. And my eldest brother, Jared, was like, oh, heck yeah, cool. I already knew we were doing this, but cool. Like, I'm excited to take my, like, little siblings there. And my brother, Matthew, was, like, totally nonplussed by it. He was like, okay. And that explains my brother a lot, who was a chiller version of me in a lot of ways. And I just started sobbing. And I'm like 4 or 5 years old, and I start sobbing. I said, I don't want to see Mickey Mouse. I don't want to see Mickey Mouse. Because I really hated Disney movies when I was a kid, because I hated how gendered they were.
The stupid fucking princess bullcrap.
I was super antagonistic towards it. And like, I didn't have the same language I do for it then that I do now, but I really hated like the presumptions of gender and gender identity, and like, if you're assuming I'm female, like, what does that mean? And why do you have these opinions about me, even though you've, like, never talked to me? Why do pronouns are so fascinating to me, because we insert gender into conversation so much. And that teaches children that it's super important what gender you are.
Did you remember? So I think we did this gig together, maybe, a local high-end ballet, I think.
High-end ballet,
Yeah, Chinese.
Oh, yeah.
One of the people that was running that show, when we were talking over how the show was supposed to go and what we were supposed to do and who we were supposed to like focus on the stage as they're dancing, I guess in Chinese they don't have genders they don't have pronouns.
Not in the same way.
Everyone was she, maybe?
Yeah.
Or we didn't, like, the person had trouble tracking as he was communicating to us, like whether it was a she or a he, because apparently in the language it didn't exist there. And I just remember my brain spun and twisted. I'm supposed to take notes and be on top of it. I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I'm helping you do your show. And I was like, oh. And I just froze in a space of wondering what it would be like if that hadn't existed. I remember a similar thing. So we hate Disney movies from the past. I remember there was like this week where I watched Rogue Nation, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, and then I watched oh boy, it's going to be better if I come up with the name of it, right? There's this Tomorrowland. I watched the movie Tomorrowland, and I watched them in the same week, and I went to see Mission Impossible Rogue Nation with a woman who was an Olympic rower. Cool. She's like 10 to, maybe she's 20 years older than me.
Cool.
She could be 20 years older than me. Maybe just 15.
If it's still relevant, we have a comment about Chinese pronouns.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wait.
I was thinking I might be wrong because I'm on the internet, and when you're on the internet, you're wrong a lot, and people like to point that out, which
I'm going to catch up with that comment about Chinese pronouns. I'm excited for it. I'm just going to finish this thought. So I'm sitting there with a woman who's literally fought for Title IX and was one of the first recipients of what that meant. Sadly, she didn't get to go to the Olympics for rowing because it was the year that we boycotted. We didn't go because something with Russia in 1984. Oh my God, huge. So we're both sitting and watching Rogue Nation, which is Tom Cruise and Rebecca Ferguson, and it's this amazing action film, and the both of them, it was the first time that I saw like a duet kind of an action film where the female looked just as athletic and they were just both kicking ass, and I was just like sitting with this friend where this woman is fierce and just is, there's a lot of equal happening in that. They were both saving each other, and it was so amazing to sit there and watch that and see this athletic woman on screen, which, you know, like the Wonder Woman, Linda Carter, she's real slim. Like there's a lot of not so athletic images or badassery necessarily that and I kept wondering, like, what would it have been like? What would my life have been like had I seen that movie when I was 8? Or what would her life have been like? And then that same week we watched this movie Tomorrowland, which I think is Disney produced, where there are several young female characters who are like motorcycle driving and like kicking butt. There's like an android that's a female, and it's like, I kind of cried during the movie, wondering what 8-year-old me would have thought if those were movies that I had access to, like what the possibility of what my life would have. Even just, 20 years different, generations different of. Yeah.
No, when I think of that, and this is, I think, kind of part of the crux of where we'll have these conversations and we'll like butt heads and pass each other in a certain way. because there is a part of me that really, really enjoys that, and I like think that is an enormously valid experience. And I get worried about people finding that to be the be-all, end-all of that. Equality looks like everyone being masculine in a certain way or presenting.
Fair, and that's
what
I'm saying.
And that's exactly. And I like contrast, and I like defying expectation, and that's like I think at a big part of the heart of who I am, because growing up the way I did and like don't feel good about gender, and people would ask me a lot because I like roughhouse, and I was like a tomboy, I guess is what people would call it when I was a kid, and people would be like, what are you? Or like I'd be on the playground and they'd be like, are you a boy or a girl? And I'd say like, why does that matter to you? Like, why does that matter? Why is it the first thing you're asking me?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just genuine confusion. I'm 5 years old. I don't understand why that's so important.
Oh, it's just such a big deal.
It's so, and it's
to everybody else.
Yeah. And I honestly, I get so mad about like gender reveal parties or people being like, oh, is it a boy or a girl? It's like, why are you asking about this baby's genitals?
Oh, yeah.
Why are you asking about the baby's genitals? I think we need to think about that.
Yeah.
I like
kooky.
I don't know why we're so invested in it. I do, because like there's gendering is like othering, and by defining what something else is, you get to say I'm not that, and so like.
Well, I can appreciate the like visceral, like animal experience of because of several elements of society and culture getting to know in your body. Is this friend? Do I friend it? Do I fuck it? Do I fight it? Do I flee?
All three.
Like there's the safety matter of like,
yeah,
you know, like do I mate with it? Do I ask it to help me like put a party together for somebody to do mate with? I don't know. Like there's this body response of like confusion lives in, and the animal doesn't know whether it's supposed to run away or start doing any of the weird dance of what we do as mating beings. Okay, I want to check in on this pronoun thing.
Okay.
Yeah, did we get
I don't
it
know if they're still
right
there.
or wrong, or?
Our friend says, Chinese does have pronouns, but they are all pronounced the same way.
Oh.
Chinese does have pronouns,
So that would
but they're pronounced the same way.
So I guess that would explain why our friend was like having trouble, because he was probably he used she all the time, just communicating with us, and then he was like, oh yeah, there's he as well, and we were like, whoa, what if we didn't have gender?
Well,
I think we were also just like primed to be excited about that concept.
It's pretty fun. Well, they used to not. I mean, I think everybody was man and beast. And so the default was using man to describe all of the people. Is that true? Am I making that up? I mean, I wasn't there then.
Yeah.
It's fair. But so back when, I don't know, maybe this is a memory from 18? Just being 18, not faking some age. I remember having a conversation that potentially the different types of feminism, one of the definitions for radical feminism was that their idea that was that feminine concepts were not necessary, they weren't wanting equality. They actually had a belief that feminine characteristics were actually superior in a lot of ways to masculine characteristics, however those were like divided and that sort of thing. And I haven't necessarily thought. An 18-year-old version of me really wanted that equality, mostly because I didn't have access to things, or my hand was slapped over a bunch of ways that I wanted to be in the world, or what I reached for, or what I wanted to do. And so the outside world told me who I should be, and didn't necessarily. A lot of people were great at supporting who I was, and they still had the same concepts of. What I should have been doing, or like celebrating me in spite of how I was reaching for things I shouldn't. Yeah. So as I got older, I started recognizing that, hey, like if there's someone taller than me, they probably it'd be nice for them to like grab things from up high. Yeah. And that I didn't need to. It was exhausting to lift the heavy things just to show that I could. When lifting with another person was just easier, and there was no reason why I couldn't use physics of tripods to lift things in a particular way, so I didn't have to like show off in some way, or even just in the last 4 years recognizing the power of emotions, the power of feminine characteristics, and understanding my own toxic masculinity That I like uncovering that and recognizing that emotions are great, vulnerability is wonderful, intuition grows and it's useful, that feelings are often a better indicator of what's going on than any particular logical linear process. Because the linear process is, your intuition is actually doing all of that calculation for you. It's just faster because it's the part of your brain that does it fast,
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was just like thinking about how the way things have been done, I think this is what you've been saying, the way things have been done isn't necessarily the best way to go about engaging.
I think I have always wanted, like, in my heart of hearts, I've always wanted, I don't believe in gender so much, like, as a broad concept. And I think in an ideal world, a lot of things would be true. And this would maybe just be one of them, where you could have masculinity and femininity, and they are not opposing forces, and everyone gets to play with all the same crayons in the box. And everyone gets to play with all the crayons in the box, and they're all equally valid.
Or even if they don't want to play, like, and they play with whichever crayons they want to.
Yeah, that's the thing. But they are all open and valid. It's not, I can wear the same outfits that my brother can, and we can both go out in public and not be worried. And that's not an issue, and people don't give you dirty looks. Like, that is what I want. And I want, the past, I think, like 2 years of my life, I was exploring my own femininity, because I grew up, growing up, very, very against it, because I just didn't want to be told what to do. Above all, I didn't want to be told what to do. I wanted to be able to do my own thing. Mom has always said, I'm very much like a march to the beat of your own drum kind of a person, and that's how I grew up. And then, like, going through puberty, and, like, all of a sudden, like, people have some good indicators about what they think your gender is, and, like, all of that. And for me as well, then, like, in my teenage years, I was also dealing with a lot of chronic illness and health problems and chronic pain. That was really isolating for me.
Well, isn't it kind of, so speaking of, like, chronic pain and illness, like, that was part of the reason why I let go. Those are the early bits of, like, in my early 20s, having back injuries and challenges of, like, I have so much more value and so much more to offer. There's a lot more to me than me pretending that I can lift this thing. Because I even have, like, limitation of range of motion and strength in one of my arms. Like, technically, I'm not disabled, but there are things I'm not able to do. I don't have full ability in my body, but I would, like, trying to, like, pretend that I could do 3 times as much with my other arm. And, like recognizing that who we are is a whole lot less effort.
Yeah.
And when we're
relaxing.
potentially, I mean, I've had moments of illness and such too, and recognizing that there's still so much we can bring to the world, even if we can't exactly get out of bed.
Yeah, I think, and that was a hard thing that I had to learn a lot of. And when I was young, I managed to find communities, like, online when I was still figuring out, like, what was wrong with me, and, like, why, apparently you're not supposed to be in pain all the time, and that's weird. And, like, why am I, like, why can't I think? Why am I sleeping? Why does my arm bend like that? Like, all of these different things. I found communities of people who dealt with the same sort of things I did. And that was my community, because I was really isolated. Being sick is really isolating. And having those communities and having those conversations with people about, like, your worth shouldn't be defined by how you contribute in a monetary way. Because when it boils down to it, that's what it ends up being a lot of the time, of, like, how do you, if we're gonna get super radical, like, how do you contribute to capitalism? And, like, do you have value beyond that? And I think exploring that a lot as a teenager was interesting for me in my growth and development. And that took a lot of learning for me. And that then plays into things like if we're in situations and we're, like, loading things in, if I'm hanging lights with 2 colleagues of mine that are male, which is more often than not, I am usually the minority in the room as, like, a feminine person. And, like, they can pick up something that I can't, and we can, like, that is then a twofer of, like, is this because, like, they're male and, like, they can do it better, or is it because, like, I have a disability? And then those are both, like, and, like,
and if I'm also trying not to gender everybody, I shouldn't necessarily assume that they're going to lift the thing and that they're stronger than I am, or that sort of thing, or force them to.
And then it gets so complicated. I feel like gender is just so unnecessarily complicated. I get how it has got us where we are and, like, why it is a part of things, but it feels like one of those things, like, snakes shedding dead skin, like it is, or it's a vestigial limb.
Right. Yeah.
But I was gonna say, I've been over the past, like, I think 2 years, I was really trying to explore my femininity because it was something that I had like pushed aside. I'd been like, people don't take feminine people seriously.
Yeah.
Because and that's, you know, what we hear, and like there are like people talking at length and ad nauseum about like, don't talk in upspeak because you sound a certain way, and like people don't take that seriously. It's like, well, in this culture where more women speak that way, that's true, but in other cultures where it's not the case, like it's different.
Yep.
And I had to learn like, oh, it's not because of what I'm doing, it's because what I'm doing is perceived as being feminine. And then if people are perceiving femininity, they're like, oh, that person, oh, poor sweetheart, she doesn't know what she's doing.
Right.
And like that was something, I don't like being told what to do.
Yeah.
I really don't. And like 2 years ago, I started growing out my hair again. I played with makeup and cosmetics, and like I was really delving into that because I decided like, if you perceive me as feminine and you don't take me seriously because of that, then I'm gonna double the fuck down about that. I'm gonna make it as hard as physically possible for you to take me seriously, and you're gonna have to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Because I'm still your boss. I still sign off on payroll, so like.
Fair.
And I'll sign off in payroll in my really cute shoes.
That is fair. We have actually, that was one of the things that we had maybe disagreement on. Whereas the upspeak thing, for me, psychologically, when the tonality goes up at the end, from my training in NLP and hypnosis and how you utilize language to get the results you want. And so at some point in my life, I start not so much caring about how I'm perceived, but the results that I get, right? And upspeak tends to sound like a question, so it sounds like you don't know what you're talking about. Whereas, you know, statement tone is just a flat tonality where the sentence ends. And then there's command tone where that drops at the end. And so people respond differently. So we started having a conversation about that. And you've had studies where you're looking into like other cultures where everybody has upspeak and the tonality at the end, but just here, it sounds like you're asking a question if you go up at the end. So,
and that goes into, again, like this I've always said, like, I feel like such a rebel at the core, which is funny to a lot of people who know me, because like I love knowing what the rules are, and most of my job is paperwork, and I really love futzing with margins and fonts, and like I'm very structured and I'm very type A, but I feel like such a rebel at heart because I'm less interested in getting things done the most seamless way as possible, and I'm more interested in causing a ruckus. And I don't want to play into ideas about how I can be taken seriously, because I believe so firmly that how I am the way I am deserves to be taken seriously as is. Because I do know what I'm talking about. And we're all coming in with, you know, biases and assumptions.
Right.
And I'm most interested in undermining and like dismantling those assumptions. So I like walking in and, you know, it's the defiance of expectation of, I don't look like what your manager would normally look like.
Yeah.
I don't talk like them. I don't act like them, but I do the same things and I get my job done well and I'm capable and competent at it.
Yeah.
And if you are more attached to me, to one idea of success, then that's just something I just really bristle at. This comes across in lots of different ways of like, I need to present. I get a lot of friendly advice about how I should present as a young person.
Yes, you do.
I get so much advice. And part of it is, you know, I have a part in it, and that is that I like to listen.
Fair. Well, and the other part is that you get a lot of advice because you present as feminine and that sort of thing. And people like to give advice.
Oh, they love it.
Unsolicited advice to women-seeming people.
And like, I will listen. I'm a nice person, and I don't want to apologize for being. We just had this conversation recently of the next time someone tells me, Amanda, you can't be afraid to be a bitch, I'm gonna lose my mind. I'm gonna snap.
Yeah.
Because I'm not afraid to be a bitch. Because believe you me, plenty of people have told me I'm a bitch.
Comment from Zed.
Oh, hey, Zed! I don't know if I told you that I loved your episode, but I loved your episode. I wish I had a tail to wear in your honor, but maybe next time.
It is gasp. What good humans?
Aww.
Zed, gasp like the humans.
Oh my gosh.
Holy man.
We love Zed.
Well,
Thanks. We're talking about gender and like biases and stuff, so thanks for hanging out. I'm sure this one's for you, Zed.
I had a thought and then it disappeared. Yeah, somebody telling you.
Someone telling me like, oh yeah, we were saying, if anyone to like tell, because I've gotten that a lot in my life. Amanda, you can't be afraid to be a bitch. Sometimes you just gotta be a bitch. And I'm like, it's not my fault if no one thinks I'm a bitch.
Yeah.
It's not my fault. And frankly, I'm tired of being reprimanded for being good at things.
Well, that was the rule for the longest time. Two versions of the rule. Having assertiveness was the rule. Being assertive and that's how you get roles of power. You have to be assertive and go after things. When women would do that, they would be called a bitch. And men would do that, he'd be called very confident and capable. That's really sad and too bad. You were saying interesting things that your rebellion is being exactly who you are. And I flashed on something that may piss people off or not, but I flashed on one of the differences generationally. We are different ages, different generations. One of the differences generationally in parenting styles, I made an assumption, straight up made an assumption, but it's not necessarily about you, but the idea that parenting style is changing, some people call this, they have negative ways of like raising unicorns and snowflakes. And in my head, I had a derogatory version of like, I bet to have a belief that who you are is valuable and important and that the world needs to adjust to you. I had one of those like stuck old generational things of like my grandfather would have freaked the fuck out to hear that. But the idea that
I love freaking out people's grandparents.
Parenting shifting into valuing, making the world more about the children and showing up and attending. And I don't know if your parents did any of this. I'm not saying they did. But the idea that who you are is valuable and important and you are special and you get to you get to belong in the world. What was interesting is having that idea of like, that is actually radical.
Oh yeah, self-love is fucking radical.
It is radical.
In both like the radical way and like the radical way.
And I like, my friend Nicholas knows what radical really means, but the idea that you get to be who you are fully and completely out into the world, and then that's valuable and that's encouraged, and that there's space for every one of us, is not the story that we were all molded into thinking. That's not how our educational system was designed when it was designed. It's not how business structures and life moved. We were supposed to squeeze and fit into the clothes that they make for you instead of the reverse. I am really looking forward to the world being a slightly more customizable experience, and I think it's becoming that.
Yeah.
And that showing up, that the whole job when you show up at the start of a gig or any project or any people arriving in a room together, the whole job is to figure like, cool, how do we play?
And I realized recently, because I was prepping for an interview actually, and I was trying to frame myself. I was writing a cover letter. I hate writing cover letters. But I was writing it for a company, and in the posting that I was emailed by my colleague about like, hey, you should, we'd love to, if you applied for this, because it's theater, they were like, we really need people who are like emotionally like vulnerable and able to really engage in this, really important work. That was like one of the lines that really stuck out to me in this long posting.
Right.
And so I kind of curtailed like a cover letter to really explore that idea of how my vulnerability is a really big part of who I am as a professional. And that is, I think, really, it's relatively unique, because when you're in a management position, so much training goes into saying like, no, you have to be aggressive, you have to be like firm, you have to really lay down the law, you have to be a bitch.
Right.
And that's not me when I manage things. It just isn't.
Right.
And I give so much more to the work that I do when I am myself. And I kind of explored that on my cover letter of like learning. I explored the first time I stage managed for PCC with June Taylor, and how I kind of walked in, I had these ideas of how I had seen people do this job in the past with this particular company, because I really wanted to like nail this, because I had been told like, this is a big client of ours, like we really like them, they come back a lot, like they matter to us.
Super important. Very respected.
And I had these ideas in the back of my head of like, how do I do this? How do I do this? And I kind of walked into the room, and like they kind of like just, oh wait, no, we can't do that. That's just not you. Like that doesn't work. You can't be that person.
Were you pink-haired at the time?
I had bright silver hair. That was my silver fox phase, which was kind of the same
Were you wearing
haircut.
a bright pink sweater that day? I just remember I remember a version where you walked in expecting them to treat you a particular way, and then they were super excited about something fluffy and wonderful.
Oh, okay. So this is an adorable story. I really like it. Because I was wearing full black.
Oh, okay.
I might have a picture of it on my phone somewhere because I do like to take pictures of my outfits because I think they are nice. But I was really excited because it was my first job for the venue where I wasn't like on site. I got to go somewhere else, so there wasn't going to be anyone around to tell me I wasn't allowed to wear things because I am an enormous violator of dress code. Even though for that venue, I helped rewrite the dress code, and I think, get in the most trouble about it.
Fair.
Because I argue this sweater is at least 51% black and 49% neon pink, but that's still mostly black. It maths out.
Oh, math.
That didn't go over well.
Right.
Or my other floral print black sweater, that didn't go over well either.
I loved when you got reprimanded for knitting. I thought that was fun.
I have knitting in my backpack right now. I'm actually knitting a very loud sweater right now. It's my first sweater, and I decided I was going to get the loudest yarn I could find. It's baby yarn. You should knit baby blankets with it. So it's super soft, too.
Right.
I'm very excited about it. But no, when I showed up to the studio rehearsal for June Taylor, I have these lovely, they were my mother's when she moved to Oregon and was interviewing here. My grandmother bought them for her, and she gave them to me. It was like a really great day. We like sipped wine and like, ooh, look at these old trunks of my clothes. It was great. But like these beautiful like tea-length skirts. They're very like fitted. They're they're very skinny because my mom was very skinny. She was skinnier than I was.
Yep.
Like blouse, I had a hat on, I had makeup on, I was wearing heels, like very that. I was feeling my fantasy. I had like my little like messenger bag with my computer, and I was like, I'm gonna meet these clients and I'm gonna do a great job.
Yes.
And I walk in and they're like, oh my gosh, you're so, I said, hi, I'm your stage manager from PCC. They're like, you're so elegant. That was the word, it was elegant, is I looked so elegant. And I love that story. And I feel like that moment and part of that is like I dress nice and I look real cute. And the other part is I was just being myself.
Yeah.
And I wasn't trying to be some idea of what I thought they needed. I was being myself because myself is the most capable of doing what they need.
Hell yeah.
And like that's the thing I've learned is I can walk in and try and say like, no, I'm the person in charge here and you have to all do everything I say all of the time. Because sometimes other people walk in with their own egos and it doesn't bug me if they think that they're in charge. Because they're not.
That's fair.
And if it starts to get in my, like, I can work around that. I'm happy to work around things.
Yeah, I think the most important thing that you said, and we could sort of begin to wrap on this, I think, is oftentimes the most yourself you are, the most effective you are.
Yes.
At whatever it is you're attempting to do.
Yes.
So anyone who's watching, and thank you for watching. I actually have no idea where we're streaming live.
Me either.
I mean, I know that I'm here. I know we're in Portland, in Selwood specifically. So I know that part of where we're streaming live, but I don't even know whichever buttons of the computer, wherever you found us, thanks for being here. I love that we had comments, and I love that they came from my yelling from my bedroom. That's fun.
Yay.
So, yeah. Oh, and my next person has arrived.
Oh my gosh,
This
cool.
one. Star. Hey.
Oh, she's great. How sweet.
Okay. I don't know. I haven't come up with how we end it when it's live.
I don't know either.
I don't have like a catchphrase.
Oh, I don't know. Well, here's just a random thought I had the other day.
I love it. Random thought.
Random thought that sort of made me. I thought of it because we were talking about this. Because I mentioned earlier, like I have a meditation practice I do every day, and like yoga I do that as well. And I hear people joke a lot about like you ever like you're doing like yoga or whatever, and you just start crying all of a sudden. I'm like, oh yeah, sure.
Yo, fuck yeah.
And then that happened to me the other day for the first time, and I'm just like sitting like I'm doing alternate nostril breathing, and like I'm just crying, and it's not sad or happy crying, it's just like very like emotional crying. Mm-hmm. And I thought like little weird sick teenage me would be super proud of me right now.
Aww.
And it's not because of what I do professionally, where I am in like my love life, anything. It's just that I am being myself. I'm being very authentic to who I am. And that is enough to let me be successful in all of these other things.
Hell yeah.
I'm like trying to like cosmically or karmically tell like 14-year-old me, like, it will be okay.
That's a big deal.
It was a lot.
This recent year, I dismantled a lot of the toxic masculinity enough that I recognized that I had fears and I could feel them and voices that I had never let myself experience. And it turns out that I had a belief under a lot of what I was doing that I was wrong and not okay. From these times when I would reach for things and attempt to like express myself in a particular way, and I was like, no, you're wrong, you're not okay. And just these moments of recognizing where that shows up, even in my choice of what I want to eat or how I say hello to people, or any of these like these tiny bits of ways that this kind of belief under the surface is pervasive. And I've had similar moments in this last year of expressing my fears in the moment or really showing up to my emotions and that sort of thing. And these moments of just letting the crying happen during a yoga instead of fighting it back and go, brr, and
no, I have to do my crow pose today.
I have to. Yoga's so hard.
I get so jacked.
Yeah.
No. But
So I have a sense that this is a permission slip. Our conversation in a lot of ways is a permission slip.
I think it is. And that's kind of how I try and live my life. And part of the reason I'm so passionate about like just being myself and I like super shut down and bristle at people telling me about how to be is I think about some of the work we do and the companies that come through there and all the kids I see.
Yes.
All of the young people. And I think this, when I get dressed every morning and I walk out in the world, because I mean, sometimes I get harassed for things like that, just for like being alive and walking around. And that doesn't really matter what I wear, but sometimes it hurts or helps. But I think about, am I helping this end goal of like, ideally everybody just gets to play with whatever crayons in the box they want to, and all of the crayons are valid.
Yep.
And like, I think of the kids I see and I hope they see me and think like, oh, that person is sometimes super feminine and other things about them are really masculine and they dress how they feel comfortable and they do what they want with their body and they have sick tattoos and they still get to be the boss of things and they're still really good at their job.
Yeah.
And they're really respected just who they are, being who they are. I hope like those kids see that and they think like, oh, who I am is okay too.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's not just one way that I get to be.
And if you're not sometimes surrounded by kids, there's still an inner part of you that's still 8.
Oh yeah.
That still makes decisions for you. And when you get to show up...
Usually my decision to eat all of the cookies in the box. All of them.
Yes. And to have soft, fluffy blankets. My blankets are in a different room right now, but I usually have them here. The showing up and living in a way where your inner 8-year-old gets to still play and feel loved, whether they got it, the first time around or not, we still have the opportunity to show up in the world where we can be an example for ourselves and others.
Yeah.
And in a loving way.
Yeah.
The revolutionary, radical, just choice of showing up and being exactly who you are.
And it's hard, and I think it's just so important.
It's worth it. You do it. Thanks for being here. We're gonna keep doing it, except for not here. We're gonna stop doing this.
Go there, or
we're done with
I might have to go grocery
this
shopping.
radical version of how we're being ourselves.
I'm gonna go radically be at the grocery store after this.
Perfect. I'm gonna radically go to the bathroom, which reminds me of this really funny story that I'm actually gonna finish with. So Amanda and I just worked together.
Oh my god!
And for the first time, I've been doing tech stuff for like 21-ish years. And for the first time ever, I had the mic on when I was doing potty. And it turns out super embarrassing, kind of hilarious.
It was great. I like walked, I'd been following you. I saw you go in the bathroom. I walk around the corner and I just like here. And I'm like, yeah. And I keep walking around. I see one of my coworkers and like, she's like, was that you? And she's just laughing, and we start laughing, and it's like we're at work right now. There are clients, but we're just laughing, and like to the point of tears.
Yeah.
And then you came around the corner. We're like, so how was that for you?
It was pleasant. They let me know that I was on, and I'm just super glad that I did not attempt to push out the couple of pellets that were knocking on the door. It's like, hey, bud, you wanna try this too? Can we do it too? And I'm like, Bonnie, are you willing to not do that? Because we have this other thing to do. We could wait a couple 20 minutes. It's back and forth. about whether I was gonna. That would have been funnier.
That's
on
a
headset.
kind of way of radically being yourself.
I was fully myself. What was really neat was how not mortified I was. I'm actually
It was great. It was.
I'm thrilled that I got to share that experience with two of my favorite people. If I'm gonna pee over the headset with anyone, I just wanted it to
That
be.
was a good group of
glad it
people
was
to,
you.
to pee on headset with.
Yeah. Thanks for peeing with me. Thanks for being here.
Anytime. I'll leave calm open next time I gotta go. Just for you. In your honor.
Oh, that is so sweet. All right. Take care.
Bye.
Well, that's how that went. Thanks for joining us on this episode. Thanks for watching, listening, I don't know, reading, imbibing, however you took this in. Thanks for being here. And if you really enjoyed it, I'd love it if you would do all of the things. Like, share, I don't know, ring a bell, bang a gong, tell a friend, and come back next time. I hope you had as much fun as I had.